Howdy guys, Jimmy Song here. This is part one of a 7-part series on Bitcoin and the various vices. So this one is going to be about Bitcoin and pride, or as the mainstream media likes to call it, self-esteem. Now, a lot of what the government or authorities in control tend to do is to use a lot of the vices to appeal to us in a particular way as to be under their control. So, for example, what pop psychology calls self-esteem is really the ancient vice of pride, right? Like it's a way of feeling good about yourself without any real reason to, right? Like oftentimes it's not like pride in your work or something like that. It's pride in just being who you are, which they call self-esteem. That's essentially what it is. Now, how does that relate to Bitcoin? Well, the thing is, when the authorities sort of use self-esteem as sort of the carrot or the way to make you feel better about having pride or being able to sort of get away with having a lot of pride in your life, it forces you into sort of taking on their belief system, right? And this is a common theme in authoritarian control, not necessarily through totalitarianism, but through persuasion, through sort of putting the quote unquote incentives in place to make you sort of think that way. And the cultural zeitgeist has been that, you need to have good self-esteem. You need to esteem yourself and think of yourself very highly in order to be a healthy psychological individual or something like that. Now, that lie has sort of like perpetuated since the 40s and 50s and 60s, I think. I mean, pop psych, I guess, was much more prevalent in the 60s. But that sort of caused this mentality that a lot of people think that they know things when they don't, right? My opinion is just as good as yours. There's no sort of objective reality. And that's very prevalent in monetary policy. It's a lot of people tend to think that they know things about economics when they have no idea. They don't have any empirical evidence on a lot of that stuff, and their resistance to Bitcoin, to this idea of a decentralized digital currency, of real scarcity, is based on this this very real idea that they already know, right? Like, or that they haven't been fooled all their life, and that they are sort of forced into having to choose all of their schooling and all of the things that they've learned over the years versus this sort of like new way of thinking. And this is partly why when you see a lot of people actually get into Bitcoin, they start questioning a lot of other stuff. Because money is one of those things that we've been lied to about whole hog. Part of how they get you to, learn about money and the authorities and the people that teach you, like the way that they get you to sort of accept all of their stuff whole hog is by telling you, okay, well, once you know this, you're okay, right? Like you don't need to critically think anymore, and that this gets into sloth and things like that. But you don't have to worry about it because you're what you should focus on is esteeming yourself, on having pride without any reason to. That's what they're appealing to is that vice, in order for you to sort of stay asleep, if you will, to stay ignorant of the reality of the situation. So, I mean, in many ways, that's the resistance that a lot of people end up going up against, and it's not a coincidence that a lot of people go straight from no coining to like, oh, I'm going to start an ICO, right? And we've seen this a lot in the VC industry where like they've been like denigrating Bitcoin for years. And then all of a sudden they're kind of like, hey, you know what? Like, I'm going to do an ICO. Well, didn't you say Bitcoin's terrible? No, Bitcoin's okay. And I'm actually altcoins and ICOs are okay too. They go almost directly from this very much, I know what's right and Bitcoin is wrong, to immediately like a greedy kind of like money printing kind of vice, right? They jump from vice to vice, which is, you know, pride to greed, basically, where they get to print their own money. That's another video, obviously, and that's something that hopefully you'll get to understand. But TLDR, pride causes you to think that you're right about stuff that you haven't really thought about. It's sort of fed to you, and it's sort of solidified by what they call self-esteem, which is really another word for pride. And that's what you often run up against when you are explaining Bitcoin to people, and they sort of automatically dismiss it. Anyway, that's not to say that, you know, like people can't have a genuine difference of opinion, but this is something that I've observed over the years. There are a lot of people that that have, you know, like at their core, like they can't admit that they were wrong about something for so long. And this happens a lot more in older individuals, obviously, because they've held the belief longer. Anyway, hope that helps you. This song is done.